Danny Hurley, the head coach at Connecticut, getting emotional, talking about his seniors.
I was a coach. I don't know necessarily. I was on the hot seat going into 23. You got to ask Dave Benedict. But until these men, until Alex Carabin put on the uniform, and Haas and Sampson, the players change your life when you have such special people.
He's such a polarizing guy. But, and I was watching with other people, and they weren't Connecticut fans. They weren't from Connecticut. But they thought that he was my coach because I live in Connecticut. I go, I didn't go to Connecticut. I know Danny, but he's not my coach. But do you want somebody who is that passionate, who cares, that is a pest, annoying, all of those things, but great at what he cares? You may not like the antics on the floor, and at times I feel embarrassed for him. He can't change. And it's not like it happened when he got to Connecticut. He was like this when he was at Rhode Island or Wagner or when he played. This is who he is. And if you think he's animated, you should have seen his dad coach high school because his dad was worse. But he does care. He's passionate, and he's going to reload. They got 3 of the top 100 players. He's recruiting some freshmen coming in. He's going to have transfer portal kids as well. But I like the passion that he has. I don't like when he engages with the fans. He got fiery, during the loss. You're calling out a foul. It was an egregious call. It felt like he was trying to fire his team up. I don't know. It was just kind of a strange eruption from him. But Connecticut, they're going to look at that and say, we had our chances. A lot of wide open looks. I was accused of East Coast bias as I was heaping praise on Rick Pitino all last week. He's still one of the greatest coaches of all time. He is. They just didn't play well. And give Arkansas credit there. We love to give blame. Arkansas played well. And they took it to St. John's. Here's Rick Pitino on why his best player, R.J. Lewis, was benched late in the game. Here's the reporter's question.
You had RJ on the bench, for a pretty long stretch at the end. Was that just because he just wasn't making them, or was there something more to it?
Played 30 minutes. It's a long time.
So he was tired?
No, played 30 minutes, and I went with other people. You already know the answers, Roger. You're asking leading questions. You already know it. So don't ask leading questions. You already know why he didn't play.
Was there one play with RJ that made you sit him in the last 5 minutes?
You know he was 3 for 17. You know he was 0 for 3. So you're answering your own. I'm not going to knock one of my players.
Okay, he makes it worse by the non-answer. In my opinion, Rick Pitino needs to say, he was struggling. I sat him down. Now, me, if I'm the coach, he's still the best player on your team. He's the Big East player of the year. I still want him out there. Is he one-dimensional at just scoring? I want him out there. This game is going to come down to the wire. I want him out there. Maybe I tell him, let's try to take it to the hoop. Let's try to get some free throws here. He's still your best player. And that reporter had every right to, because I'm watching the game. I don't know if this kid is hurt. I've watched him play a couple of games this year, got to see highlights with him. He gets buckets. But I would have said to him, let's get something inside. Let's try to get a cheap bucket, maybe and one, go to the line. That's what you want with the scorer. It takes one basket, maybe two, and all of a sudden you kickstart him. But that reporter had every right to ask that question. Look, Rick was a little frosty. He just lost to, Calipari, who he doesn't like. But they thought they had a Final Four team there. They weren't good enough to get by Arkansas. Arkansas deserves the credit. But Tino's still a spectacular coach. He is. He's one of the top 5 college basketball coaches probably of all time. Hey, got his lunch handed to him. Yes, Heaton.
Yeah, but resurrecting St. John's, not an easy thing to do.
No, but he did it.
It's not easy to get kids to go play there.
Yes, but he did it. Did a great job. But this happens. There's only one team who's going to win. That's it. So John Calipari could get bounced. Was it a great year? They started out 0-5. Now they're at the Sweet 16. John will join